Walking across a rickety bridge in the wilds of Tibet is not my idea of fun, but it is necessary because I'm on the trail of the modern explorer, the men and women who go to the ends of the earth to further our knowledge. Of course, this is a far cry from bygone ages, when daring men set sail into the unknown in search of new land and untold riches, fearful they might suddenly drop off the end of the earth. So you cry, surely the world has been fully mapped. What's left to discover? Come with me as we meet some of today's greatest adventurers, and we discover there's still much to learn about our world. It's my quest for exploration. The veteran and the novice. The expert is Wang Hao Man, an explorer so familiar with the hills and valleys of this vast area.
Then we're going to cut back down through the Mekong River.
I, of course, am the novice, starting out on my own mini exploration, my little voyage of discovery. It will be a trip across China's western extremes and into Tibet.
Now, very briefly, this entire area is the Tibetan Plateau, the green and yellow area, which takes up 1/4 of China's land area. So right now, we're down here, and the aim of this particular expedition is trying to get to a very remote monastery that is very high in altitude, roughly around 14,000 feet. We're going to be cutting through, as I said, some of the roughest terrain in the area, especially the last stretch of trying to get to that monastery. You're going to feel it, but as a precaution, we have a compression chamber and oxygen along.
It's taken me 24 hours to get from London to Hong Kong to Kunming to here. Base camp, where I'm joining an expedition that will take me into rural Tibet. I'll be honest, I've no idea what I'm going to experience or how I'll react to the high altitudes I'll be visiting. This is a first for me.
I personally feel the most important part of exploration is the search for knowledge. Or what I would say, that kind of is what we're all born with. The spirit of exploration, of finding out about the unknown.
Wang Hao Man is something of a modern-day Marco Polo. 20 years ago, he set up the China Explorer and Research Society. And ever since, he's been setting out on adventures like this. Whether it's up the Yangtze, down the Mekong, or across the Tibetan Plateau, Hao Man has uncovered a China the rest of us barely knew existed. And no one is more qualified to guide me into the heart of the Himalayas.
Just looking at Western China, the Silk Road, Tibetan Plateau, there's so much of the pockets of areas that historically no one can get into. Satellite space technology has helped us know a lot more about the earth around us, but to put our feet on the ground in many of these very remote recesses of the earth there's still a lot for us to learn.
For the old master, this is familiar ground. For me, it's my search for an authentic adventure. We have asked Hao Man to make this trip a challenge, to take me up to and perhaps beyond my limits. It's only through pushing my boundaries that I will discover the sweet taste of exploration that comes through personal discovery. This is the highest I've ever been while still standing on the ground. Whichever way I look, here there's a view for every point of the compass. The first stop on Haoman's itinerary is a kennel in the sky, 4,000 meters high. I have a rendezvous with 42 very special dogs. The Tibetan Mastiff, a breed which may only survive because of this man's work.
It has a very long history, even going back to Marco Polo's time. He wrote about it and was totally fascinated by them. He even brought back one to Italy when he went back from China.
Exploration brought discovery, which has led to preservation. In this case, a breeding program to save the purity of this massive mountain dog. What was going wrong?
Well, I think over the last 20 years, a lot more roads are built into Tibetan area, and people come in and set up shops and restaurants, and they bring in lowland dogs, and no one's watching them when they mate with the Tibetan Mastiff. So they are getting diluted, constantly becoming smaller and losing their characteristics. So before we know it, soon we'll be actually losing the entire breed.
These formidable beasts have been the protectors of Tibetan families for centuries. And saving the breed is among Haoman's greatest passions. Haoman's trips are not about being the first to get to the top, or I did it because it was there. Nor is he hell-bent on pushing himself to discover the limits of his own endurance. This is a more subtle form of exploration. Are you an explorer or a conservationist?
At heart, I'm far more an explorer. Conservationist, I think, is a growing trend. There are more and more people getting involved. There are more technologies available. I would consider explorers as a dying species. Exploration is a diminishing profession.
Our journey continues northwest through Yunnan province. And for much of the trip, the Yangtze River is at our side. The third longest in the world, I'm seeing this famous river with the explorer who's widely credited with correctly discovering its source. Just another of the firsts that Haoman can claim. The locals have found a rather novel way of crossing its perilous torrents. This river may become a polluted nightmare downstream, but up here, it's still relatively pure and part of the lifeblood of these communities, whose diets depend not on the Chinese stereotype of rice, but on barley. In this region, the lines between China and historical Tibet are blurred for hundreds of miles. And here, at least, there seems little evidence of the political conflict surrounding Tibet's Buddhist culture and China's grasp of the region. And now I'm crossing the Yangtze River into Tibet. No fanfare, no security checks, just a profound sense of satisfaction that few like me have ventured down this road. That tells us the way that we're going. The more remote we get, the more of an explorer I feel.
In some of the very special moments when I make discoveries, it's a very private feelings to it. It's not something that you are totally jumping up and down, very elated. I think there's both an outward journey and an inward journey at the same time. It parallels each other and it comes together with each other.
In true explorer's tradition, it was in fact a wrong turn that was to end in my most intimate brush with Tibetan culture.
This is in memory of Jongaba, so they have this special festival in memory of him. So that's why all the monks gather here to make prayers, and all the local inhabitants from all the villages come around for these couple of days of chanting.
Seeing people gathered like this for impromptu prayer is not a unique sight in Tibet. That much I am aware of. But it's the first time I've come across such a thing, and I'm starting to get an insight into what being an explorer is all about. Going, seeing, and experiencing for the first time. Hello. Hello.
the living Buddha, the local one, who's right now blessing the locals. So let's go in and meet him.
I had reached the midpoint of my expedition in a village where, to my untutored eye, time had stopped long ago. This is what How Man had promised. The sort of encounter that explorers crave. I realized it was a blessing in more ways than one. He lit up, didn't he?
Of course.
He saw us, he lit up, and
he made a special
gesture.
That's right.
It was very, very moving.
Yes, I hope we're blessed for the rest of the weather and everybody's good health, and okay, and hopefully the rest of the expedition will go extremely well.
And no flat tires.
That's right.
My journey continues through the majestic Himalayas. I'm not just here to see the peaks and the troughs. I have a destination, a remote monastery that lies 4,500 meters above sea level.
那我现在是不是想上到对岸才过去啊？
对对对。Wang Haoman is leading the way, the explorer who spent his life redefining